The intelligence was very inconclusive. The intelligence says we don't know. It could have been very severe. That's what the intelligence says. So I guess that's correct. But I think we can take the we don't know. It was very severe. It was obliteration. And you'd think that a media outlet would say, isn't that a great thing?
We have the hour to sift through whatever he was trying to say there. Hi again, everybody. It's now 5 o'clock in the East, 4 days after dramatic military action in Iran. Do you know where your Secretary of Defense is? What he's doing? Keep that question in the back of your mind as we evaluate what Donald Trump just said or tried to say, practically in the same incoherent breath, admitting the preliminary U.S. intelligence of the damage done in the wake of the U.S. strike on Iranian nuclear facilities was, in Trump's telling, quote, very inconclusive, end quote, but that Donald Trump also believes that same, quote, very inconclusive intelligence somehow proves, quote, obliteration. That muddled statement came after leaked documents. A leaked internal assessment reportedly suggested that the U.S. strikes weren't as successful as Donald Trump originally claimed they were. Now, an alarming Axios piece of reporting says the Trump administration's response to all of this is to limit the classified information that it shares with Congress moving forward. That's according to 4 administration sources who say this, quote, federal officials are planning to limit posting on CapNet, a system the administration uses to share classified information with Congress. The DIA, that's the Defense Intelligence Agency's assessment on the Iran bombings, was put on CapNet late Monday. Quote, go figure. Almost as soon as we put the information on CapNet, it leaks, an administration source said. There's no reason to do this again. Which brings us back to the question we proposed. What's the Secretary of Defense up to today? If you guessed launching a leak investigation, well, come on down, because former Fox News host Pete Hegseth, who once accidentally shared sensitive information with a journalist who was added to a Signal chat, is on the job. The Pentagon's focus now apparently includes a criminal investigation seeking answers to how journalists got their hands on classified damage assessments that suggest U.S. airstrikes may not have set Iran's nuclear program back as significantly as the administration has communicated it did. Today at the NATO summit in the Netherlands, Hegseth lashed out at the media again for using the government's own analysis to question whether or not the attack was effective, and in so doing may have confirmed the leak he's now charged with investigating. Watch.
They don't care what the troops think. They don't care what the world thinks. They want to spin it to try to make him look bad based on a leak. Of course, we've all seen plenty of leakers. And what do leakers do? They have agendas. And what do? Do they share the whole information or just the part that they want to introduce? And when they introduce that preliminary, a preliminary report that's deemed to be a low assessment. You know what a low assessment means? Low confidence in the data in that report. And why is there low confidence? Because all of the evidence of what was just bombed by 12 30,000-pound bombs is buried under a mountain, devastated and obliterated. So if you want to make an assessment of what happened at Fordo, you better get a big shovel and go really deep, because Iran's nuclear program is obliterated.
All of this is where we start the hour with Democratic Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut. Senator, I've been following your sort of real-time commentary, but let's just start unpacking Hegseth. There's something disturbing about watching him perform with Donald Trump over his shoulder. We'll just start by trying to ascertain the facts. He did seem to confirm the DIA assessment, though, there, didn't he?
Well, they've all essentially confirmed the DIA assessment. And listen, the one thing that he's right about is that, there is always going to be low confidence in assessing a strike in a foreign country designed to destroy something underground. We don't have cameras underneath there. We don't know exactly what we hit or what we didn't hit. But the initial assessment of DIA, of the photographic evidence, is that they did not fundamentally destroy those assets. And what we also know is that the Iranians were successful in moving moving a lot of the enriched uranium out of Fordo. And that maybe is the most important fact. If we didn't destroy the 60% enriched uranium, they frankly don't need that many centrifuges in order to continue to enrich up to nuclear grade. So listen, they're mad, they're furious. You can see it in their voice because they got caught in a lie. They got caught in a lie. They went out there and said that that the nuclear capacity of Iran was obliterated, that we'd set back the program at least a year. They knew they were lying when they said it. They got caught in the lie. That's super embarrassing. And they're trying to cover up that lie with this righteous indignation, blaming everybody but themselves for the fact that they did the really unforgivable sin of national security communication. They fudged intelligence about our national security. You can't do that because, as we have seen over and over again over the course of our history, that's what gets us into unnecessary wars of choice. That's what gets not dozens or hundreds of Americans killed, but thousands of Americans killed. They're angry because they got caught lying this weekend.
I have been to that movie, and I do know how it ends. Tell me why you think this is happening, because when you look at what Donald Trump could have said, he could have said the military performed brilliantly, they successfully struck their targets, and his base would have been just as happy. Why do you think they're digging in and doubling and tripling down on this word obliterated, which, by the way, his own chairman of the Joint Chiefs did not agree with on Sunday morning?
Yeah, listen, what you said is right. The military did their job here. But one of the reasons we have been reluctant to use a overhead strike is that we, the American national security community, has known that there was a medium to low probability that we would do the kind of damage that we wanted, but that there would be then, because of the strike inside Iran, the potential for regional conflict, the potential for a lot of Americans to get killed, the potential for diplomacy as an option to disappear, as it has, at least in the short run. So the military did their job. They should be applauded for a really dangerous mission. But it's not their fault that the mission they were given had a low likelihood of success, and the standard that Donald Trump set, obliteration, was a standard that the military probably was never going to be able to achieve, given how bunkered those facilities were and given the fact that Iran apparently had moved a lot of the uranium off-site already.
And some of the reason you could theorize is because Donald Trump kept warning them that he telegraphed this. I mean, it all feels so circular. And I wonder where you go. You're on the Foreign Relations Committee. I mean, where do you go for facts? Who do you trust today?
Well, as you mentioned, they've also announced that they're going to stop sharing intelligence with Congress because they like it when they don't get caught in their lies. They like it better when they can just make up things and there's no way that they can be caught. And if they don't share information with Congress, then, yeah, there's a much higher likelihood that they're going to just tell the American people fabrications about the risks posed to us or to the success of missions that they undergo overseas, and no one will be the wiser. I guess where do I go from here, Nicole? They are also this week trying to take health care away from 16 million Americans. And there is an element of this version of his reality show that is designed to try to distract Americans from the fact that they are about to pass the most massive transfer of wealth from the poor and the middle class to the rich in the history of the country. So I'm going to keep talking about what they have done to try to get away with a really criminal lie about this mission in Iran. But I'm also going to make sure that we don't let them turn the story from what will ultimately matter most to the people I represent, which is a bill that's going to destroy health care for 16 million Americans if they pass it this weekend.